Kerry, firstly, welcome and thanks for indulging us today and catching up with us. Super excited. This is the first time we've seen Access All Areas in Australia. Congratulations. Talk us through how you're feeling about the day. How have you been feeling in the lead up to today?
Look, super exciting, right? I think we talked about it in the open that the company does this, and I think David made a bit of a joke, right? That, it's a really big event. In the UK, it's the first time I've done it in APAC. And so we want to do something different. This is really different. It's an amazing space, but I think it really hit the nerve of what David's vision was, which was essentially to create community. And that's something that, we've prided ourselves in the past. When you think about who Access is today for the accountants industry, it was always part of our DNA. But I think through COVID and then through the changes in the business, these companies coming together into something else, we lost it a little bit, right? So this has brought it back and in spades, and it just feels great.
Absolutely. I mean, I look around and, even the room we're in, I think it's the ghost of Prince Alfred here in the SB. There's paint peeling off the walls. Like, it's a very raw and gritty space, but I love that from what I've seen in the vision, we want raw and gritty conversations. You talked about community. We want accountants that are sharing, being vulnerable and helping each other through a particular journey. As I said, because this is the first time I've seen this from Access All Areas, I'd love to just understand, has this married what you wanted the vision to be? I know Dave had good ideas, but obviously in your role, and I'd love for you to actually tell everyone about your role and how long you've been in it as well, but has this married for the vision that you're also trying to cast?
It's completely. Like, we really wanted to use the opportunity to help define who Access is and what we stand for. And I think sometimes, we're a big company as a software company, and people have a perspective of what big companies and corporates look like. And so just doing this sort of personifies who we're trying to be, right? Which is, in many ways, we think of ourselves as probably one of the world's biggest startups. And that's, our CEO thinks of us that way. And just a little bit about the Access story. Here is a guy who is as close to a founder of the company because it really changed in business model when he led a management buyout of the company. And it's the only company he's ever worked for. And so when he looks at us and he sees what we do, he's got a starter's mindset. He's got, effectively this view that anytime it feels and it's getting too corporate, you need to take a step back from it because it means that we're giving something away. And so we tried to personify all of that in this event, right? And I think that's why the space is important. It tries to be real. I think what happens, I've been in the software industry a long time, right? And part of the challenge, with software vendors is to paint a picture, about the future. And sometimes you can run away with too much of that and not bring it back down to reality and what it really means to people and solving real world problems, right? We get hung up a little bit on our own stuff a bit too much. And so and Access tries to buck that. I mean, obviously, we want to be able to take people on a journey, have people thinking about what's possible, but we also want to ground it into, reality and some of the change that this industry is going through, and especially now with, again, another really big technological shift. They're not easy things to navigate. So this format works really well because you're not just hearing about Access and about us, you're hearing about it from our clients, our customers' point of view, what they're experiencing, their perspectives, what they're doing, and learning from each other as well.
You talked a bit about this is about the future of the business and the brand, and you've unveiled some big product ideas today. Evo in particular was a big thing that came out of your keynote. Do you mind if you talk us through the product unveil? What does this mean for you to now have this out in the wild, and what is the future direction for this product for the community?
Yeah, and again, what I might do is just to, again, give you a little bit of context around the answer, because when I joined the company, so I run it here for Asia Pacific, I got the privilege of building out the company and brand here. I joined it just on 4 years ago, and one of the things that attracted me, I came in through acquisition, and that's an important part of who we are, and I'll explain it a little bit more as well, but one of the things that really attracted me was this idea that it had, and it sort of started with a technology it had developed in a platform called Workspace. And the idea was that unlike the public ecosystem technology alternatives that are out there, what Access Group was trying to do, both with its business model being M&A driven, and again, there's a philosophy around being able to innovate faster and being able to create value much quicker through acquisitions versus trying to do it all organically. And this technology that could then bring those acquisitions together into singular products or suites to work in one way. So that was always the direction of travel for the company. But in the last 12 months in particular, there's a huge investment that's gone into reframing it because of AI. And with the speed with which this is changing, and I said it in the keynote, right? If anybody's got like crystal ball and can tell me what it's going to look like in 12 months, come talk to me, because you got to be on my team, right? We're all trying to figure this out. And so how is it you now navigate what the needs are of today, but making sure you're future-proofing them? And that was the whole idea of Evo, right? It's effectively a platform that now brings together the right sets of technologies to solve problems for today. And we believe in the accountant space in particular, it's navigating the challenge of myriad of point solutions and capabilities that sort of are broken workflows to ensuring that we provide the openness, flexibility, and technologies to be able to then incorporate new things as they come, especially AI. So Evo in a nutshell is that, right? And our difference is that we're not thinking about it as functions in an application. We're thinking about it as an organization-wide capability. So, AI on all of your data, right, as a firm. So that's our thought process.
So you've mentioned acquisitions and M&A was a big part of the strategy. Do you see that continuing to be part of the strategy? Or I noticed in your workflow on the image today, there's an option for workflow and maybe open API and other partners integrating in. Is there anything shifting in the strategy?
The belief system is, and again, the technology and the way we've architected it, we know we've got to be able to work with an ecosystem, right? Because companies have made investments in those and they shouldn't have to choose, right? If you're using something, you're getting value out of it, we want you to keep using that. But we believe that the problem still needs to be solved. You still need to think about how that work is done end to end across these applications. And so that's how we're considering it. And these apps coming in as part of us. In terms of continuing to acquire, that's again, just our business philosophy. By doing that and by having ownership of, some of those components, we believe we can create a better experience. And so that will definitely continue to be part of the way that we work. Again, it's a philosophy, but it's also backed by the way we grow and grow profitably. Now, as I mentioned, we're a big software company in terms of revenues, but a profitable one. And those two things are really difficult to mix at the same time. What helps us get there?
Yeah. I mean, I look at some of the acquisitions you've made in the last couple of years, some, really big, well-loved brands in that mix, your Fathoms, Change GPS, Lightyear, which is awesome to see. I think the big question I have generally people asking of me is what's going on with the Access Group? We see they're buying all these things, but what are they doing with it? We don't know what they're doing with it. So do you mind if you talk just through, I guess, the last couple of years of, the acquisitions and, because today I see this is now moving forward. We're in the spotlight. We're sharing with the world what we've been doing. Do you mind if you elaborate a bit about why now's the time to come out and
completely?
Yeah.
It's one of these things that, there's sometimes you've got to do a whole lot of work to get to a point that then unlocks and accelerates. And so when you mentioned two, there's the great acquisitions, Fathom and Change GPS. And we took slightly different approaches, and it goes again a little bit to who we are as a company. It's not this cookie cutter, the same thing each time. It's an idea of how, we effectively can create value, which means adding value to clients. So with Fathom, fantastic product, great technology set, was solving a problem. And we always saw that was going to be an extension of what we were doing at core, right? So from core compliance and all the insight and data that we gather to be able to go further than that. However, our technologies were disparate at that point. We hadn't gotten to where we needed to in terms of our new cloud technologies. We didn't have Evo, the platform, to be able to bridge those two things as easily. And so I think it's the culmination of both the, businesses acquired, becoming part of Access and working in concert with our processes, but then the technology starting to become available across. So what Evo has unlocked for us is now this one platform that connects to all of our products. So that in itself then creates these opportunities to be able to cross over between them. Right? So that's why the Evo has really unlocked that. And we just felt it's interesting. We would have done this outside of Evo, because we'd also gotten to a point, like I said, of real progress on our cloud native capability. But Evo has just now exploded it, right? It's really just taken it to another level.
Love it. I'm conscious of time, and I know you've got limited time as well, but do you mind if you just talk through what you think the biggest opportunity for the accounting community is at the moment? We've heard a lot about AI, especially in the next 12 months. I know we're in the expert session today. Aaron's saying these agents are going to be coming out and it's all going to be automating the actual job and the work. But do you mind if you talk through what you see as the biggest opportunity for this community right now with what's available to them?
Yeah, and actually it was a really good session. It was thought-provoking in many ways, and probably the biggest was for firms to take a step back, regardless of whether they've got specific opportunities right now, to take a step back and at least get an understanding of the direction of travel, because it will unlock opportunities. And actually, it's having a great lunchtime conversation, because we were talking about, for most people in the industry, when they started off and they decided that accountancy was going to be their profession, they didn't necessarily imagine that they would be doing core compliance work, right, at forever, right? The idea of entering the profession was to help business or to effectively create value in that way. And for me, in a nutshell, that's the opportunity that AI brings, especially over the sort of short to medium term horizon, which is being able to apply intelligence to repetitive work to take out those things that are less value accretive, right? So if we can get that repetitive work in compliance related activity or data preparation for then value add, and get all of that done by machines, then it leaves more time and more space for actually the stuff that people really want to be doing in the industry. And so that's where I sort of see it, especially over the next 12 to 24 months headed. But the speed with which all of this is changing, I mean, like I said, it's crystal balling, right? So, but I think that's the direction of travel. It's all about firms adding more value to their clients and using the technology to be able to do that.
Yeah, awesome. Very good. I guess the last question I have, we talked about agents coming in. We talk about, in this industry in Australia, I'd say morale has been pretty low the last couple of years. COVID and all the compliance has driven a lot of people to say, I actually want to leave the industry early. And then we have things like AI coming in to help automate work. So I'm not concerned for the single partners, like the business owners, because they will be able to run their business more efficiently. But I guess my question then becomes, where is the downward flow and pressure? Is that going to be that I'm letting go of my team members because I've got, and maybe it's not 12 months or 24 months, maybe it's 3 years, but is that the kind of thing that gets talked about internally on the access side?
Look, actually, and I liken it again, that session sort of became a bit personal because people started talking about family and individuals and kids, right? And advice. Yeah. And a piece of advice I've always said to mine, right? Like, I mean, if you are, you've got to be curious and you've got to be accepting of change. And then you've got to demonstrate that you're at the forefront of it. And so if you've got the right mindset, and it's all about mindset, you could look at this next, generational change in technology in a really negative way and be scared about what it's going to do and how it's going to impact your job and what you currently do. Or you can look at it and go, how amazing that there's something that's going to take away all the drudgery and give me an opportunity now to actually go and do what I thought I was going to be doing in the profession and adding value and having business conversations and so forth. And so that comes down to the individual, right? It's not just up to the leaders of these firms. It comes down to the accountants themselves having a positive mindset to sort of go, this could be a great thing for what I do as a professional, right? And so, like I said, it's a bit philosophical, but I do think that it's very much a people-driven thing at that point.
Yeah, awesome. I love it. Well, Kerry, I'm conscious of time, so I'll wrap this session up here. But thank you so much for the opportunity to sit down and chat, and super excited for everything you've unveiled today. And where my last question, 2025, where are we going to see access all areas? I've heard a few bets.
I'm telling you, I'm creative, but not that much. I'm going to throw back out to David and the team, and this is amazing. So I think we're going to keep with to the theme somewhat. I don't know how we up this one.
I've heard murmurs of the Coogee Pavilion, which
I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, well, if it is, count me in. But awesome. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.